Yes, fellas, good morning. Welcome to another episode of the podcast on this fine Monday morning that is lovely and dark at 8:30 this morning still, but just over 3 weeks until I am off to Vietnam. So soon to be in the sunshine. Although I didn't know this. Their sun sets dead early there because it rises dead early. Their days typically start at like 5 a.m. because the sun, even in like peak summer for them, is setting at like 6:30. So we'll see how that sort of shifts my pattern around. But anyway, today I wanted to take you guys through the main habits that you need to ingrain in your life to get lean, okay? Because most lads never really get the results they want. They never get properly lean. And it's not because they don't understand the basics that they need to do, or they don't know at least what the basics are that they need to do, right? They need to be in a calorie deficit. They need to track their calories. They need to move their arse a little bit more. They need to have high protein. They know all of this stuff. Maybe they don't know how to apply it, but they know like the fundamentals of what it actually is, right? And yeah, all of that stuff does matter. Of course it does. But here's the thing, right, that nobody talks about. What happens when you're fucking knackered? Stress is high, right? Your discipline is wavering that little bit. You've got a lot more on your plate. When work's giving you a fucking kick of the dick, basically. When you're hungry, when you're stressed, when you're going through different scenarios, right? Shit. Because that's where most lads fall off, right? Not because they don't know the things they need to do, but because they don't have the right systems in place to help them actually do it long term, okay? And getting lean, guys, properly lean, isn't about winging it, right? And hoping to get to your end result. Absolutely not. It's about building these small, repeatable habits that keep you on track, no matter what. Okay, so the thing is, like, the real problem isn't effort. The guys that I speak to, they are putting in a lot of effort, right? Maybe the effort isn't directed in the right areas, but the real problem is structure. Okay, most lads are actually pretty decent early in the day. Okay, they eat well, they stick to the plan, they start hitting their protein, they're thinking, sick, this is going super well. But then it gets to sort of that after work Netflix o'clock kind of time, 7 to 9 p.m. And that's where the struggle lies. Hunger hits, energy's gone, they're sat in front of the TV, they're wanting to numb their brain a little bit. And suddenly they're balls deep in snacks, beer, wine, like just mindless grazing because they're looking for some sort of comfort. Maybe they're just a bit bored, they're trying to make up for lack of enjoyment they've had in the day. Maybe they've just got low energy and they're looking for a bit of a pick-me-up, right? Now, that's not necessarily poor discipline. That could just be down to a lack of poor calorie structure for that individual if that's the problem, right? Which for a lot of fellas it is, okay? Like the mindless eating Netflix o'clock. So if that is a problem for you, then it makes sense to structure your day in a way that you can put a bit more food in that evening period when you do tend to struggle a little bit more, right? This isn't going to be for everyone, but you can still apply this level of thinking so that it works for you, right? So I work from home. I can eat whenever I want. The kitchen is always close by. So I like to spread my calories relatively evenly across the meals that I do have, but when I diet, I do like to have a slightly larger amount later in the day than I do first thing, because first thing I can, top up with caffeine. I can delay food a little bit. And the same goes for like social events, birthdays, meals out, dinners, that sort of thing, okay? You just put more food where you potentially want more calories, where you want more freedom, more flexibility. So it's just about being tactical with where you place your calories. A lot of guys, like I said, they struggle with the evenings. So, of course, we want to understand why it is they're struggling. But at least initially, it might make more sense to just look at your day as a whole and go, okay, well, I'm actually not that hungry in the morning. I don't find it that difficult to stay on track early because I'm busy, I'm doing things. But the evening, I find it a bit of a bitch. Okay, so let's just put some more calories there, right? So that it makes it easier for you to stay on track as a whole, okay? And the same goes, like I said, for social occasions and all this, right? If you are leaving yourself a little amount that you know you're going out, you know you're going to this social occasion, then you're making it pretty fucking difficult for yourself to stay on track, right? So you almost want to just make it easy for yourself before the event comes by just going, okay, let's overestimate this. And if I don't use those calories, sound, whatever. Now, when it comes to hunger, guys, a lot of the time, or when it comes to overeating, sorry, a lot of the time it isn't actually hunger. Sometimes it will be, right? Because the diet is set up poorly. There's not a huge amount of volume within the diet. You're not getting insufficient amounts of protein, fruit, veg, etc. But we can fix that pretty easily, okay? But another one that I see a lot, right, or a cause of it, is mindless snacking, emotional eating, boredom, at a desk, in the car, in front of the TV. It's habitual eating, right? And this is why a lot of guys, they will try to change things. They might stick a plaster on whatever behavior it is that's holding them back, get some results initially, but then fall backwards. And it is purely because of this habitual loop that they're stuck in. So there's a few things that we need to do here, because just being more disciplined doesn't fix this, right? What fixes this is, first of all, creating a bit of space between impulse and action, pausing, delaying, and letting the urge pass instead of reacting to it. This can work very well for some people, okay? But really what we need to do to actively change this loop, right, long term, to build the new habit, build the new behavior, is understand why we're in this loop and what it is we're chasing. Because ultimately, you are stuck in this 3-point habit loop. Cue, routine, reward, right? So cue is what sort of starts the loop off. So for example, you come home from work on a Friday night, you're stressed, you're wanting to decompress for the weekend. So you get a takeaway from the local pizzeria, nice bottle of red wine, fucking good choice, love a bit of that. You wanted to decompress, you wanted to chill out. So that's your mechanism of doing so, your routine, right? And the reward is you feel pretty chilled, you feel pretty damn good after that. It works. So your brain goes, fuck, whenever I feel like this, I'm just gonna do that. I'm just gonna get the wine and pizza, right? Let's do that again, okay? So it becomes your go-to loop on as soon as you feel that particular need, right? And your brain becomes very, very comfortable with that. And whenever you try and change it, it goes, yeah, maybe you want to change it, but we know this thing works. So let's just go back to doing that, right? So where most people go wrong here is they just try to like white knuckle this habit, right? And go, right, we're going to knock you out. We're going to ignore you. We're just going to stop doing you. And it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work, because you are still going to need to meet that particular need at some point, okay? You can ignore it for a while, but it's going to be met somehow. So we need to do something different. We can't change the cue. You're still going to come home from work, stressed sometimes, wanting to decompress. You're still going to want to feel relaxed. So we can't change the reward, but what we can change is how we meet the need. We can change the routine. So we need to look at an alternative mechanism that meets that same need for you, right? So I've gone through this with countless clients, right, where we're chatting together on a call or over messages, and it's like, okay, well, what are you actually looking to get from this? I'm just looking to chill out. I'm looking to, give myself some fun after a long ass day of work, whatever it may be. Okay, cool. Well, this is sort of counterproductive to us achieving our goals, isn't it? Yeah, it is, yes. It's causing me to overeat, which is stopping me to lose body fat. Fuck. Okay, so what else can you do that meets that same need for you, right? List out a few ideas. And you have to be realistic here. You are not going to go from ordering a pizza and a bottle of wine to, going and running 10 miles. It's just not going to happen, right? It's not. But we can look at things that already kind of work for you. So I had this conversation with a client of mine, Colin. It's a few years ago now, right? Because he was working a very, very stressful job. He would come home from work and he would be like, you know what? I deserve wine, cheese, Chris. And I was like, excellent choice, right? Very good. Especially because he drinks red wine and not white. I'm all for that, right? But this was stopping him losing fat. He'd been struggling to lose body fat for years. So we had this same conversation. And he said, okay, well, I really love walking the dog. I really do. There's a beautiful park near where I live. I could take the dog out for a walk. So I said, great. How can we plan that? And he said, well, as soon as I get in from work, instead of me chilling out, relaxing, I'll just take the dog out straight away. So it gives me that element of relaxation. I said, cool, let's try it. Let's see how this works. And you have to run it for a period of time. You have to force the reps. For Colin, he did it and was like, this is absolutely fantastic. This is exactly how I want to feel. I feel refreshed after a day's work. This is great. So for him, it works straight away. Okay. For most people, you need to force the reps in, initially, but just look for that alternative to meet the same need that you're already chasing through food, whatever it may be. Okay. Now, the third thing I wanted to go through is how your environment sets you up for success or failure a lot more than you think. So if you are eating when you are stressed, amped up, you're eating quickly, you're scrolling your phone, you're distracted, you're not really chewing your food, don't be surprised when you're not overly full from the meals that you are having, okay? Don't be surprised. Because if you've ever watched competitive eating, they eat really, really fast. They're trying to do the opposite of what we're trying to do here to get lean, right? They're trying to eat as much food as they possibly can. What we're trying to do is decrease the amount of food that we're eating, right? And hunger is a big problem as you diet if you're not managing things correctly. So we want to slow down when we eat, chill, relax, okay? If you can eat in a relaxed environment, like away from distractions, great, do that. Take your time when you're eating your food, chew it thoroughly, okay? And you will notice you get so much more full than you otherwise would. Okay, now, I'm not saying you need to sit there and take an hour to eat your meal. If you've only got 15 minutes on your break, if you could take 10 instead of 5, that alone is going to make a big, big difference. Okay, so understand your environment does matter, right? Your actions, your pacing, your thought processes will dictate how full you are, how your mentality towards what it is that you're doing. It will make a big impact. So slow the hell down, relax, chew your food, and it will really help you get a lot more full from the food that you are eating, even without changing anything else, right? Which then makes it easier to stick to the plan that you have laid out. The fourth habit I wanted to chat about is training in a deficit. Now, when calories get a bit lower, training can take some sort of a hit if you're not clever, okay? Because we're putting less fuel in us. I'm not a huge believer in I'm not a believer at all in training goes to shit as soon as you start dieting. Absolutely not, right? I think most people, as soon as they start dieting, they use it as an excuse to train like a fanny, okay? But when we are dieting, our goal is to preserve muscle and to even build muscle, right? And it is absolutely possible. If you're still progressing your training, it's fucking possible, okay? But the smart move here is proper nutrition around your training window, okay? So pre and post workout nutrition becomes more important when you're dieting than when you're in a muscle gaining phase, because when you're in a gaining phase, you have more food across the day, so you're pretty topped up, okay? So, just to make it really, really simple, right, especially pre-workout, what I'd be looking at doing is getting in a good portion of my day's carbohydrates, ideally before and after your training, right, looking at around 0.5 grams to 1 gram per kilo of body weight before and after training, right? It isn't the absolute be all and end all, but that's what I'd be looking at to fuel training and to recover from training and get ready for your next training session, because your performance in the gym dictates if you're maintaining a building muscle or if you're losing muscle, okay? Because if you let your performance go to shit, right, you're dropping weight significantly, then, your body doesn't need to hold on to the muscle tissue. So as you're in this deficit, it will eat into the muscle as well. The fifth habit, I think we're at now, is the hydration side of things. A lot of guys that I chat to will be like, oh man, I'm just so hungry, I've got no energy, I can't concentrate, I'm constantly, thinking I need to eat. So they go straight to, well, my calories must just be too low. Plan's too aggressive. Something's wrong. But half the time, they've barely drank any fucking fluid all day, right? They've just been busy at work, back-to-back meetings, right? And even mild dehydration tanks your energy, gets mistaken for hunger. It ruins performance in the gym. I can't remember the exact number, but it was even like a 1 to 2% level of dehydration decreases performance by about 20%. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that was the number. And here's the thing, right? When you're dieting, your margin for error when dieting isn't huge. When calories are higher, you can get away with being a bit sloppy. Like if someone is 150 40 kilos, they can diet on more food, right? Because it requires more energy for them to maintain their body weight, right, than someone that is, say, 70. So as you get leaner, there is less room for error because calories are going to be lower. So everything else gets amplified, right? So this is why it's so important to stay on top of your habits outside of like just your food and training, looking at your sleep, your hydration, because if these things start to go, then everything else becomes a lot harder. If you're dehydrated, if you're underslept, sticking to the diet becomes really fucking difficult. And we want to remove as much friction as we can, right, to make it as easy as possible to stick to. So I always have fluid with me all the time. I've got a coffee here. I've got, 500ml zero sugar squash here. Right, I would always have fluid with you. Water bottle on the desk, in the car, in your gym bag, right, all the time. Okay, not because it's, it's the sexiest thing in the world, but because it bloody works. Being dehydrated sucks. It absolutely sucks. Now, habit number 6. Everybody knows if they're more active, they're more likely to be in better shape, right? But as we get older, a lot of jobs that we have are desk jobs. Like myself, I sit in this chair for 7 to 10 hours a day, right? So it would be very, very easy to make hitting, say, 10,000 steps, which is roughly my average. I average between 10 and 12, right? Feel like climbing Mount Everest at 7 p.m. when I finish, right? And this is where most lads either just sack it off, tell themselves they'll make up for it tomorrow, or they'll rely on one big walk that never actually happens, right? And if we're constantly, say, 2K under our target across the week, that's 14,000 steps less per week, which could very easily be a day and a half's worth of steps near enough for you as you're trying to lose body fat, which is a massive amount less to move. So we need to think of our steps like we think of our training, like we think of our doctor's appointments. Put them in your fucking schedule, right? Know when you're going to, move, right? Obviously it's schedule dependent, but I think like mini walks across the day work great. I like to go for a walk, for 30, 40 minutes, whatever. Not everybody does, okay? But if you can just schedule in some sort of micro walks, micro walks across the day, it's going to tot up, right? I know from my day, right, if I go to the gym, I walk there, walk back, and I walk the dogs, I'm going to hit about 12K steps. Easy, no problem at all. If if it's like a check-in day and I've got a lot more on my plate, I still know, right, if I go get a Monster and I go walk to the gym and back, I'm going to hit 10 comfortably, no problem. Right, so know ahead of time when you're going to do your steps, and really, especially in the week when you're busier, know the loops that you're going to do. Because when it's just a repeatable process, it's easy. It's easy because you don't need to guess. Like you just go, okay, well, I'm at 8K, I'm going to go and do this loop, done, easy. And this is going to mean you're burning more calories, great, so it's going to help you to lose more fat, right? But especially in winter, right, it's going to improve your energy, improve your headspace. I would definitely advise going without headphones. Unless you're going to the gym or something, then get fucking pumped, right? But it's going to help your sleep as well, because it's going to mean you get some more natural light into your system, which is huge. It's absolutely huge. So I would absolutely 100% recommend that. I really, really would. Right. Now, the next one I've sort of touched on a little bit is the sleep side of things. Now, this catches guys out so much, right? They think, I can sacrifice sleep, work's busy, life's heavy. I finally get a little bit of me time in the evening, so I'm just going to push my bedtime back because I want to sit and I want to scroll on social media for a little bit. Right, and then you've pushed your bedtime back by 30, 40 minutes, and now you're in trouble. You feel like shit, energy's gone, hunger's increased, right? You're losing muscle, your recovery's dead. We're making it difficult now. Okay, prioritize your sleep, guys. I cannot stress this enough. Some may have little kids and it may be interfering with their sleep, and there's nothing you can do about that. But what we still can do is look at, right, where can I look after my sleep habits? Even if you can't get quantity, you can still somewhat improve quality, even with, things getting in the way, shall we say, by coming away from screens, coming away from caffeine earlier in the day, things like this. Okay, but a big thing I am a fan of is a reverse alarm. Okay, what I mean by a reverse alarm is like people are so accustomed to waking up to an alarm, and instead we want to use an alarm to tell us, bro, go to fucking bed, right? Get away from screens, do all of this, and start your evening routine. Come off screens, go and read 10 pages, whatever it may be, and start to wind down so that over the next 30, 60 minutes, however long in advance you set it, you can then be in bed ready to sleep. And if you nail these habits, guys, being consistent over the long haul will become so much easier. You'll manage hunger better. You will be more energized. You will build more muscle and lose more fat as a result, right? It will be a much smoother process than feeling like you're pushing a boulder uphill. I wanted to give you one extra thing now that the camera has come back to play ball, right? Because it's all well and good us having these plans, right, of the habits that we want to, right? But we need a system that helps you stay on track in all circumstances, okay? Not just ideal ones, okay? So I'm going to introduce you to my adherence builder that I use with clients. We want to build out different tiers to your level of consistency, adherence, whatever. Gear 5 is when life is easy. You're cruising down the motorway, right? No traffic, sunny, coastal roads, great. You can go above and beyond on your plan, sweet, right? Gear 1, on the other hand, life's a bit of a bitch, right? High stress, you're driving down country roads with granny drivers, cyclists, all this shit, right? And you're on your way to a really important job interview. There's a lot of stress. Okay, we're not feeling great about that, right? Knees weak, palms are sweaty, right? QM&M. And in that moment, we're going to be able to give less than we are in a gear 5, right? So we just build these out accordingly and then everything in between. So what is the minimum effective dose? What is the minimum thing you can do when you're feeling like you're in a gear 1? And then what's a small step up from that, step up from that, step up from that, up to a gear 5, okay? I do this with clients across training, sleep, nutrition, social, activity like steps and so on, right? You could add extra levels into that as well. No problem at all. I'm going to direct you to another YouTube video here that runs through that in detail, where you can grab your own and fill it out so that you can apply it to your own journey straight away. And this will massively help you go from all or nothing, which so many guys are stuck in, to all or something. The car is always better moving forwards in some way, shape or form than just staying stuck where it is. And if you want to grab the adherence builder so that you can apply it for yourself, just reach out to me, whether it's on social media or via email, whatever, and just say adherence and I'll send you over the link so that you can apply it for yourself. But anyway, guys, I will leave you there and I'll see you in the next one.